let's see if I am actually live. And I am. Okay, hold on. Let's see, hold on. Okay, I think we're good. Let's see. I'm about to tag some folks. Hold on. Uh, let's do this. Okay, hold on. Hold on, y'all. Give me one more second. I'm trying to remember who all I normally tag. Okay, let's see. Okay, so let's see if this is working. I'm gonna give it a okay. All right, it's looking like I'm on, but we gotta make sure everything is good. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it may be. When you are tuning into this podcast, I am your international award winning author, filmmaker, and empowerment specialist, Tennille M. Jackson. Y'all give me one more quick second. Hey, Miss Kyla, because today, baby, we are talking all things menopause. So when you come on, be sure to say hello so that way I know you're watching, number one. Number two, like and share the video. And then number three, tag somebody that you believe will benefit from this broadcast. And so that's what we're going to be talking about. Hold on, let me get my folks on Zoom. Let me get them tuned in, and we are going to go with this. So hold on. You guys know I talked last week about the total woman experience. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. I'm talking about all of it. So give me one quick second. Let me get them looped in and we going to get going. Um, why? And it's called, why do we call it menopause? Hold on. Why do we call it menopause? Okay. Alrighty. So let's do this. Done and go live. And go live. Okay. All right. So let's jump back in. It's been a day. So, hello to everybody. I am your empowerment specialist, Tennille M. Jackson. And today's topic is, why do we call it menopause anyway? Right? So, like the whole concept of men ain't got nothing to do with this. Like, when you break it down, like menopause, like it could at least been called womenopause, something like that. Like, I ain't trying to be funny, but I'm serious, because when we look at what menopause actually is and what it does, right, like basically certain things are starting to be on the decline. And so, it's like, I get the whole concept of it being, saying pause, because certain things are on pause, like how I normally act, pause. How I normally feel, pause. When I tell you everything is on a pause, because it's like, anybody who has gone through it at any level, right? So pre-menopause, perimenopause, regular menopause, post-menopause, like there's a change in you. So let me, before I even get deep into this, let me again, to my men, maybe you want to be here. Maybe you don't. I don't know. Depends on how comfortable you are with hearing certain things that we women talk about. Because again, this is pieces of the total woman experience. And so, right before I jump all the way into it, I want to just kind of briefly revisit what we talked about last week. So remember, guys, I am officially going to be doing this thing. Okay, like when we talked last Monday, I was kind of introducing the notion of the total woman experience, where I would have some topics that's a women's only type of situation, because a lot of times, being women, there are many times where we are belittled, whether it's, hey, Mary, whether we belittle ourselves or we allow other people to do it, or whether we allow them to do it or not, it is done. And so for me, if you guys have known me for a split second, you know that I am all about empowerment, period. But there is definitely a special place in my heart for women, empowering women. And one of the reasons why is because, again, I am one that believes, like, when we go through stuff in our lives, I wholeheartedly believe that it's for us to help somebody else, right? Like, I legitimately believe that we don't just go through just for the sake of going through, but we go through so that we can grow through, so that once we grow through, we can help somebody else not have to endure the same thing, or at least not to the extent that we had to, right? Now, granted, this may not be everybody's calling. This may not be what everybody wants to do, feel comfortable doing, feel called to do, and that's okay. But for me, I do. And so I do. And so, in either case, I was saying that educated and empowered, yes, overall, that is my overall business. But the total woman experience is really kind of what I'm feeling called to do, having a place and a space that's just for women. And again, I shared on last week that I do have an organization that's called I'm Glad to Be a Woman. Right now, it is just a Facebook platform. And in fact, it's a secret group, but we kind of came together back in March of 2019. Hey, Peter. And so when we started, it was really like this whole empowerment thing for women, where we would just come together once a quarter in person. But then you guys know that come 2020, what happened? A whole pandemic, a whole one. So it really made doing anything in person like next to impossible. So the point is that we stayed, the my women's group stayed intact, and I am always finding different ways to edify, to educate, to empower, to encourage. That is just who I am. And so, like I say, come January, in an official capacity, we're going to start this total woman experience. Okay, I'm going to get back on top of some things with these newsletters, getting people involved so you guys can know what's going on. It's going to be something that's specifically for you guys. I want to say that I want to build some type of community for it, still working out all the kinks. But until then, right? I got the rest of December to work out everything. But until then, let's talk about it. Let's have the conversations, right? So the things that you'll be able to talk about within the confines of the total woman experience is everything that has to do with women, marriage, motherhood, ministry, I mean, like mental health, even menopause. Like, we're gonna be talking about all of the things. We're going to be talking about me time, because with women, we don't take enough of it. And many times it's not until we're in the hospital somewhere that we're like, oh man, I didn't even eat today. I didn't even rest today. I didn't do this or that. So there's going to be a whole thing surrounding this total woman experience. And so if you are a woman and you want to be included in it, then again, there are three different ways you can be involved when we're having these different conversations. If you want to be a part of the panel, because again, there are going to be shows where I extend it to having panelists. So if you want to be a panelist, you'll have the opportunity to do that. There'll be times where I'll be looking for guest hosts. So if you want to help to guest host, then that opportunity will be there. And definitively, and this is really, really great for my, small business owners and entrepreneurs. Hey, David, like, you'll have the opportunity to be a sponsor. So if you have products or services that are geared toward women, then you're going to really want to get on board as a sponsor at this flagship level, right? Because we're only going onward and upward from here, right? Like, we're all going to be able to thrive in 2025. So, like, you want to get on board now. But we're going to go into today's show. Why do we call it menopause? Like, what do men have to do with this change? And so, really, men, y'all should jump on board with me because you get the, bad end of this stick. And it's really nothing to do with y'all. But for whatever reason, it's not called women pause. It's not called female pause. It's called menopause. So because of that, since y'all name it, y'all gonna get some of it. Okay, we gonna let it out on you. But what is menopause officially? Menopause is a natural part of aging that marks the end of a woman's reproductive years. Okay, so why am I talking about this? Because y'all already know it's a backstory. Every time I talk about something, there's a backstory that's gonna lead us to why we here today. So I went to the doctor today. Okay, and again, I typically am an open book, so it is what it is. I went to the doctor today because I have been going through some different things, and I'm like, okay, is this menopause or what's going on with me? Because I already am my own acquired taste, but even for me, I was a little bit extra, and I'm like, what's going on? Right. And I will stop and pause to say this. That was what I deem as a victory, VICTORME. My sister and I kind of coined that term, victor me, where, okay, maybe it's not a big thing for everybody else, but it's a big thing for you. And so if you have known me, say like 5 years ago, you'd understand why me just voluntarily going to the doctor is a victory. I hated doctors, hospitals, everything associated with that whole medical field. And a lot of it is because I lost so many people at such a young age and so quickly. Hey, Greg. And so it had literally developed into a thing. Like I literally had a severe case of anxiety. I would literally have panic attacks whenever I would have to go into a hospital. Like we were just not friends, okay? Hated hospitals, hated doctors, hated anything that had to do with health and diagnosis of said health. Because for my experiences, it was like every time somebody went to a doctor, went to a hospital, they did not come back with a good diagnosis. Okay. So I just got within my own self. I was tired of that. So I did not, hey, Robin, I just kind of got to a point where the only time I was going to a doctor was when I had no choice. So if I was having children, I went. If I was having a stroke, I went. Like other than that, I wasn't just going, right? But then what happened was, in addition to me just having to mature a little bit and get over myself, um, there were some things that was happening, right? So at the end of the day, understand I'm not making light of anybody else who may feel that same way, because I understand I am not the only one to feel that way. That's a legit thing, that anxiety and that fright or fear, whatever you want to call it, that's a legitimate thing. And I understand that. So I'm not belittling or making fun of anybody who may still be there. I'm just saying for myself, um, things started to change in my life. One of the biggest changes, and I should have tagged her, I attribute my consciousness about my health to a girlfriend of mine. Her name is Rochelle Matheny, and she is the host of Warriors Talk, and she's always talking about cancer survivors specifically, but she also lends herself to talk about other diseases and illnesses and things like that. And she prompts us to move from awareness to action, right? And so in 2020, and I told y'all I got to take y'all to California, bring back Chicago, but in 2020, I had a cancer scare. And when I say a cancer scare, I simply meant that I didn't know whether or not it was cancer, and so it scared me. So in in 2020, I found a lump in my breast, and I did not know what it was. Old Tennille, so pre 2020 Tennille, old Tennille would have probably just suffered through it and just been somewhere scared and planning funerals and all of that stuff. But this more enlightened Tennille was like, there is no way. that this lady can be your friend, and you hear her warning people all the time, and you hear her talking about her own stories and how being proactive saved her, and you talk about educating and empowering others, and you don't take the initiative to educate and empower yourself. So regardless of what the diagnosis is, you need to know so that you can act. Now, this was November 2020. It was literally like 2 weeks after two of my daughters had scoliosis surgery. So both of them were down, and I was primarily their caregiver. And so it was like that was even more motivation because I'm like, my girls need me. So I really got to get over myself and just get this test done. And so thank God it came back. Nothing was wrong. I had just gained a lot of weight, so there was more fatty tissue, but there was no cancer or anything like that, right? So I I'm saying all this to say that I there's an understanding of me that it is necessary to, especially as a woman, there are so many different things that can go on with us. We need to make sure that we are proactive in taking care of ourselves. So whether you're talking about mammograms, whether you're talking about pap smears, I can just if you're talking about a checkup, okay? Like once you reach a certain age, over 40, over 45, you need to at least once a year, you need to be having a physical. Hey, Brittany, like we don't want for it to be something bad because I've shared the story before. By the time we found out that my mother had cancer, it was already stage 4. So, what I did decide, and my mother was around the same age that I am now. So, what I did decide is that whereas I love my mom and in so many different areas of my life, I want to emulate her, my healthcare is not that. Like, I don't want to wait until I know that something is wrong before I start trying to do something to make sure it's okay, right? Because there are times when you can find, like whenever we hear the C word, and my God, I just lost a girlfriend to cancer. So we know, like, I don't care age, race, gender, whatever, cancer takes out so many different people. But the thing about it is, there are times where when it's found, it's not stage 4, it's not the end of the road. If we can find it early, my husband is a cancer survivor. When we found his cancer, it was in stage 1. And so being able to have surgery saved his life. So, my point that I'm making is that came from being proactive. And I think a lot of times when we're talking about the more serious issues, and even though I understand that menopause is not technically a death sentence, right? Like it's still the same scary for many women, because the fact of the matter is that we don't know what to expect. And I'm just being 100 with y'all, right? Because I say all the time, I talked to my doctor today and I said, because the fact of the matter is that I really genuinely don't necessarily know what I should be looking for, right? Like if I have any women on here who have been caregivers, who have been mothers, like we have kind of trained ourselves to know the signs for other people. Like, so like with our children, we watch our children and we watch them like a hawk. So we know, to this day, my daughter is 22, and I can look at her and know when she is dehydrated and needs to go and get some more water. And that comes from an issue that happened when she was hospitalized when she was 2. So 20 years ago. But there is still something instinctively in me that just knows, okay, when she starts acting like this is wrong. If she looks like this, then that's wrong. And we do that for our children, for our spouses, for our parents, you know what I'm saying? Probably even our siblings. But many times we don't take the time to actually learn our own selves, learn our own bodies, right? And so, like, yeah, there are times when I notice differences in me, but I can't. A lot of times, I might not be able to tell you specifically what day it happened. I can probably tell you either it was X amount of months ago or sometime in 2024. Like, I can do something like that, right? And so, one of the things, just real quick, and this is free, that I want to say to you guys, hey Jorge, hey Paula, is like, if at all possible, start keeping a medical journal, right? Like, when we hear medical journal, I think a lot of times we probably think about the books that's published by doctors or people in the medical industry. No, I literally mean just like start writing down whatever issues that are issues within your own family at large or within yourself, especially if you are a parent, right? And this is why I say that, because how many times, and this is again, my children are getting older, so they're at the place now where the doctors may ask me to step out of the room. How many times do they ask, have you heard the question, does this run in your family? Does this run in your family? How many people in your family had this or that? And the unfortunate truth is that for many people my age and older, so if you're in your late 40s, 50s, and over, you may not know the answer to that. Not because you didn't want to know, not because of any other reason than we grew up in a time where adults did not believe in disclosing their quote unquote personal information. That was the whole kids do not, interact with adults in that way. So my grandmother was not disclosing to me, oh, well, I got, I had cancer or I had a stroke at this age, or I had, like, once I got old enough, and keep in mind, my grandmother died when I was 23. So by the time I was starting to get old enough to understand, hey, there is some proactivity that needs to be going on. There are some questions that I should be asking. Well, people were already starting to die. So therefore, there are so many things that if I didn't ask it, or like, there are literally a couple of people that I can ask, and it's not guaranteed that they would know. I simply mean if they're older than me, so they've been around longer than I have, not necessarily the fact that they would be guaranteed to know. But here's the point that I'm making, and then we're going to start talking about this menopause, but I just want to get this out here. If you all don't already know your family history, try to learn as much of it as you can. Reach out to siblings, to aunts, uncles, cousins, parents, grandparents, to ask, did anybody in the family have stroke, heart issues, diabetes, any of these things that can be hereditary? You want to know that, because even if you are not affected by it, your children may be, right? And so you want to keep that journal so that you can pass it on to them, because one day the doctor is going to be talking to them when you're not in the room. And so, anyway, that was free, kind of separate, but we back on why is it called menopause anyway. So the point is, I went to the doctor today, y'all. How many minutes later? I went to the doctor today, just because I wanted to know. There was nothing severely wrong with me. I just had, it had been a minute since I had a regular checkup, and I just wanted to. I made up in my mind, okay, we're going to start getting back on top of things like you need to be on top of things, because you don't want anything to go wrong. And so you're noticing that there are things a little bit different with you. So go to the doctor. So here are some things that I presented to my doctor. And again, this is really for my women. If there are men that's listening, maybe you got a significant other, a sister, a mother, a daughter that may be going through the same thing. And so I'm trying to tell you why sometimes we be having attitudes and you don't get it. Because, baby, listen, we don't understand what's going on with our bodies either. Okay. Like, when I was talking to my doctor today, I'm like, some of these things I'm telling you about, this is not who I am. So when do I get to return to me? Like, I'm waiting to return to myself, right? So can you give me some type of time frame for when that might happen? So for me, some of my symptoms, or what I told her, definitely, I think Wanda Sykes referred to it as my personal summers, or maybe it's Jennifer Lewis. Like, baby, every time it's hot all the time. Like, I ain't talking about if you're in Chicago, it's like 55 degrees, so it's like nice outside. I'm talking about whether it's 35 degrees, 45 degrees, or 55 degrees. Like, I don't need no coat, I don't need no jacket. Like, I'm just always hot. It's just hot to me, and it's like literally I could be under the cover at the end of the night. Is my husband's cold, I'm hot. You take the cover off, my skin is burning up. Like, I'm hot. Okay. So it's like, why is that? I told her about like, just like my weight gain, and it's primarily in one particular area. And it's like, okay, yeah, I know I ain't dieting or nothing, but come on, like, it's gonna keep being hard like this for me to lose. Then I was telling her about I'm telling you, I was just being 100 with her. I was telling her about, like, I don't know if anybody else gets like this brain fog, right? Where it's like it's so hard to either concentrate or remember stuff. Like, when I tell y'all, I thank God for calendars and phones and notebooks, because and people, because it's like everybody that lives in my house is a built-in accountability partner. So it's like I will say something out loud, because I promise you, my right hand to God, 15 minutes later, I won't remember what I just said, or where. And my daughter, one of my daughters, Mom, really? Like, come on, baby, I am coming on. I'm dead serious. What did I just say? Like, so serious. So I asked her, like, the fatigue, the lack of energy, right? And then I don't know if you guys notice it, but like, even with my skin, like, there is a difference in my complexion. And I'm like, the skin tone is, I used to have oily skin, now it's dry skin. What's going on? And let me tell you, one of the worst things you can do, because I know somebody other than me do it, so stop it. Stop going to Google to try to diagnose yourself. You ain't got no PhD. Your name don't end with MD. You ain't got them initials. So stop going, because let me tell you something. You go to Google and you will come back with 15 different diagnoses, and ain't none of them right. You start putting in all these different symptoms that you got, because what you don't realize is that there are so many issues or problems or medical whatevers that overlap. Some of the symptoms overlap. All you know is what you're presenting with, right? And then many times we feel like we know what it is. So the fact of the matter is that when you start Googling, you're looking for it to be that, right? Like, you're going to keep on putting in the different symptoms until you trigger that response. Stop doing that. You know how many letters, how many times you got to hit the keyboard to put in your symptom? Baby, save that time and put in the numbers to a phone and call a doctor and make you schedule you an appointment. And especially if there is nothing like urgent, right? Because I do realize when you are a new patient, you might not be able to get to see a doctor tomorrow, next week, not even next month. It might be 2, 3, 4 months before you can set an appointment. But again, I say, if it is not urgent, then at least get on the books, right? And I think the other thing is also, like, just understanding realistic expectations that you should have when you go to a doctor. I've been to my fair share of doctors. Being a stroke survivor, I've had major strokes and I've had TIAs, aka mini strokes. And that has taught me to advocate for myself. Like, there are times when you go to a doctor and they come in and they're going to give you just like the standard test. Why? They don't know everything about you. So you can't just sit there closed mouth and, not say anything. It's your job to know yourself, so that, and I'm not telling you that you should feel bad if you forgot to mention something, because ultimately it is the doctor's responsibility to be a doctor. But I'm saying, like, say if you go to a doctor and say you don't feel good, and they treat you, and then they tell you, oh, nothing is wrong with you. You don't have to just leave. You can ask them, you know what? Well, can you run this test, or can you do this? You can advocate for yourself, because you have to also remember, doctors are called what? Practitioners. Root word, practice. They practicing on you. They don't know 100%, right? Why? Because everybody, literally, not each person, but each person's body, every body is different. So what might work on a 44-year-old man may not work on a 44-year-old Tennille. What might work on a Caucasian woman may not work on me. What might work on somebody that's slender may not work on me because I'm a little thickums, okay? So you have to understand that there is no such thing as a perfect science. So you have to be willing to advocate for yourself. So focus back on menopause, doctor. I was there. So so I'm telling her all of these different symptoms. I told her about the fatigue, about the brain fog, about the no energy, about the being hot all the time, about the thing what's going on with my face. Or with my skin, I should say. And it's really not on my skin, it's just on my face. And so she was saying, well, I don't necessarily think that the face has to do, she said, I don't think that your skin has anything to do with what you're experiencing as it pertains to menopause. And so we'll bookmark that and come back to that story if I have time, because she basically referred me to see a dermatologist. So we'll come back to that if I have time. Okay. But she did say, she's like, oh, I also should probably let you guys know. So about 8 years ago, I had a hysterectomy. Okay. And so she's like, so when you had your full hysterectomy, that actually it produced what we call surgical menopause, because by definition, by medical textbook definition, menopause is the time after you have missed 12 periods. So 12 months, 12 consecutive months, no period. Then, that for them typically flags, hey, this she's probably entering menopause. Okay. But for me, I was 36 when I had a full hysterectomy. So that means I don't have a cervix, I don't have a uterus, I don't have. So, okay, y'all might be saying that seems too much. I told y'all if it's too much, then don't go. We talking about menopause, which means we talking about everything that's about it. So this is part of it. Okay. And so she was saying, so technically, you probably entered menopause then. And she said, she's like, and I believe you are postmenopausal now. Right. And so they did some tests, because the other marker that they have is really, it's about your estrogen levels. Okay. So again, this is for any women who are experiencing or may be experiencing. Girl, Bridget, let me tell you, for those of y'all who listening on No Vibe, Bridget said, this is a whole word, no night sweats, only 60 days of flashing, but the weight gain, baby. And they need to tell somebody, that this what it's gonna be, right? So let me keep going though. So when we're talking about what's going on with me, and she's like, you with menopause in general, I'm sorry. So with women who already, if you guys still have your ovaries intact and you hit a certain age, what happens is the estrogen that the ovaries produce, that those levels start to decline. So that's really what helps them to also know. So if you did not have a hysterectomy, your ovaries are still intact, what they're able to do is really kind of test your estrogen levels, because as you hit a certain age, like I said, it's not just the age, because I know people who are like in their early 50s and they're still having a cycle. I'm like, the world, why? You know, anyway, so since they're still having a cycle, then it doesn't matter about how old you are. So basically, is once you stop having a cycle, 12, if you've had stopped having a cycle for 12 consecutive months, then again, that's pretty much medical textbook definition for entering menopause. So then they're able to test your estrogen levels. And if your estrogen levels are in fact declining, then that's really how they know. Okay. And so for me, she's like, I don't know, y'all. I'm sorry on Noom. I don't know how I end up hitting the button. Hold on. Yeah, I don't know how I did that, Robin, but thank you. So in either case, so basically what I was saying, I'm gonna repeat real quick for Noom. So if you did not have any type of surgery, again, I had a full hysterectomy 8 years ago. So if you did not have a surgery, then typically that means your ovaries are intact. Once your ovaries start to, the estrogen levels start to decline, that's really how they start to tell whether or not you're in menopause. After you have missed your cycle, you stop having a cycle for 12 consecutive months. That's typically what signals to them, okay, yes, you may be entering menopause, but then, like I say, your estrogen levels are starting to decrease. So now you're starting to have a hormonal imbalance because the estrogen kind of help you remain balanced. So now that's how come you got your own personal summers going on. That's how come a lot of these different things, the brain fog, this, that, and the third, that's how come those things are happening, because your estrogen levels that were there are no longer there, right? Or at least not to the level that they used to be. Another thing that I learned real quick was when we talk about hormones, the doctor is like, hormones is really a vague term because there's so many different hormones that your body has. So whereas myself, and I'm taking it, probably Bridget too, we are gaining weight, she's like, for people who may be experiencing weight loss, that could signal something to do with your thyroid, right? Because typically, if it's no reason, no rhyme or reason, you're not exercising, you're not dieting, but for whatever reason you're just losing weight, it could have something to do with your thyroid. So point is, while I was there, she basically wanted to do some blood work on me to look at my, to measure the estrogen levels, measure my thyroid, measure all of these things, just to be able to determine whether or not I was indeed in menopause, or what stage of it I was in. Now listen, when the girl told, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say the girl, but when the doctor told me that she believed I'm postmenopausal, do y'all know what postmenopausal mean? That means after menopause. So wait a minute, you mean tell me I done went through a whole situation and I didn't know. I didn't know. So it says, so it says during this time, postmenopause. So officially, postmenopause is the period of life after menopause. So I already did them. Okay. So it says during this time, some menopausal symptoms may ease or stop, but others may continue. Now, let me tell y'all how vague that is. Now, even though I told y'all not to go to Google and I just read that from Google, my point for reading it, that's exactly what the doctor told me. Do you understand how frustrating that is for doctors to say, because and again, this is why I keep referring to them as practitioners. Understand they're practicing, because she literally said everybody is different. We can't give, so what you may be experiencing that's menopause for you or menopausal for you, somebody else can come in and they may not have that same symptom, but they could also be experiencing menopause, and vice versa. They could be displaying symptoms that you don't, but it doesn't mean that neither of you are in menopause or both of you are. Like, so you just have to understand, this is why I'm telling you all, and especially my ladies, to pay attention to your body, to know what does your body normally do, so that when it stops doing that, whatever that is, then you may want to follow up with a doctor. Understand this: one of the things that does occur when you are in that postmenopausal stage, you are at a higher risk for certain conditions such as cardiovascular disease. Okay. So, and again, that's not just Google, that is what the doctor said, that is generically true for everybody. You are at a higher risk for certain cardiovascular disease simply because you are it doesn't mean that you will have it. It's just that your risk is higher. So again, you just want to know your body. So in these last couple minutes, if anybody has any questions or comments, feel free to put them in the inboxes or whatever. If you're on Zoom and you got a quick question or comment, you can feel free to come up to the mic. But in this last couple minutes, I'm going to deviate to tell y'all what happened when I went to a dermatologist, because somebody might still have a good memory. Remember, I said that. So it so happened that when they were trying to make my follow-up appointment for the dermatologist she actually had an availability like within that hour. Sure, I'm gonna stay here and wait instead of waiting for 2 more months for when she could see me. So yes, I will wait for the hour. So I saw the dermatologist, Y'all, did you know that yeast, and I don't mean a yeast infection because I actually like, no, this is not infectious, but when the yeast that's in your body, it can become overactive. And when it is overactive, then the dry skin and all of this stuff. So again, I'm not trying to be for y'all that's on them, y'all can't see. For the everybody else, y'all can see. So like this around my hairline just recently started, but the outbreak around, so she basically said that this is a flare up. So I am my skin is inflamed, so the discoloration that you see underneath my eyes, above my eyebrows, and now along my hairlines, and it's actually behind my ears as well, you guys just can't see that. She said that is all inflammation. And so basically she says different people, again, there are different things that can cause the flare ups. So sometimes it can just be the extreme weather. Sometimes it can be stress. And I forgot what the third thing that it was that she named that are the most common factors for creating these flare ups. But, you know, at the end of the day, what made me feel good was to know that it's at the place where once I use the ointments and things that they gave me, because one of them is a shampoo for my hair, but the other ones are ointments. And once I use that, she's like over time, probably within 3 to 6 months, that the pigment in my skin will return and the discoloration, like the differences, will kind of start to fade away and my complexion will basically correct itself. But the things that you learn when you go to the doctor, and that's really kind of where I want to end it, right? Like, I want to definitely, again, when we're talking about the total woman experience, it ain't easy being a woman, baby. Let me tell you something. This is not for the weak. I don't care whether you're a wife or not, whether you're a mama or not. If you are a woman, it is not easy doing what we do. It's not easy wearing these shoes. It's not easy living this life. So to me, I feel like the least thing that I can do is create a platform for us to talk about it. The least thing that I can do is start normalizing some of these conversations, right? Because it makes no sense that we have to walk around acting like we are embarrassed or ashamed to talk about things that it ain't just happening to you. Like, and I don't mean in a bad way, but you ain't special. Like, all women are going through this at some point in their life or another. All women are having some type of menopausal symptoms, whether it is premenopause, perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause. We are going through this. But once you stop having your cycles, if you have had hysterectomies, like, you're probably entering it sooner rather than later. Like, when you see another woman and we just fanning ourselves, baby, we under the woman across from you, especially if she look to be your age or older, she's just not her head because she understand. That's what I'm saying. Like, all of this needing to feel like we are in competition with each other, and we got what we competing for when we going through the same stuff. Like, we get it. A wife gets another wife. I don't care how old you are. I don't care what color you are. A wife gets a wife. I talk about that because I just celebrated my 23rd year of marriage this past Friday. Baby, let me tell you something. Women who have not been married as long as me, I get where you're coming from. Women who have been married longer than I have, they get where I'm coming from. And I'm trying to get where they're going to. Like, there is no need for competition, for intimidation, for feel. I don't ever feel intimidated when I walk in the room with empty of the body. I don't care how pretty you are, how thin you are, how rich you are. I don't care, because at the end of the day, we go through the exact same thing. And the best thing for us to do is learn how to be able to be there for each other, because the worst thing you could ever do is go through alone. I don't care what the it is. Nobody wants to go through this thing called life alone. And for my women, I am here for us. I'm not saying I'm the only one, because Lord knows it's a whole lot more folks out here. We got folks in the spiritual realm like a Priscilla Shire or a Sarah Jakes Roberts, or or Joyce Meyer. So depending on who you like to listen to from a spiritual, religious purview, we got that. We got people in every realm because women are freaking awesome. So you can't name an industry that is not a woman there. It may not be woman dominated, but guaranteed there is some woman that is there that you can connect to. And so my whole purpose when we launched officially, we launched this. The Total Woman Experience will officially launch in January. I want y'all there with me. We gonna figure out all this stuff called life. Like it ain't about who better than this person, but it's about comforting one another. It's about being there. It's about talking about the hard stuff, the difficult stuff, the awkward stuff, and letting you know, girl, you can make it. You got this. If it's on your plate, it means that you got the ability to take care of it. That's what we're doing. That's all I done been about. Period. I do that for everybody, but we gonna niche it down, and we gonna definitely do it for my ladies. 2025, y'all. This is our year to thrive. That's what we all about. So I don't care. Identify the area of your life, personally, professionally, socially, spiritually. No matter what you're going through, our whole purpose, we're going to figure out how to live well rounded, well balanced lives. And if you are here for it, then stay connected with me because that's what we're going to be doing. And again, I want y'all to hit me up with your email addresses. Let me know so that way I can start sending y'all. I'm going to resume. I've been down for like a month with these email addresses and the not the email addresses, but sending out the newsletters. I had kind of faltered a little bit, had some things going on in my personal life, but we finna get back up and get back going. I never guarantee you that I won't stop or that I won't stumble, right? Like, because things happen to me all the time, but I can guarantee you that I will never quit. So I will always be here. We're gonna always be pushing, and we're gonna make it through this thing together, y'all. So that's it. That's all. For those of you who are not already connected with me, please go to Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and even Noon Vibe. And you can find and follow me at Educate and Empower with the number two, as well as my name is Tennille. And especially if you're on TikTok, y'all, I've been asking everybody, click, y'all know about the purple ticket. If you don't know about the purple ticket, hit my any of the accounts because I done did reels everywhere. And click the link for my purple ticket. But that's it. That's all, y'all. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Tomorrow, I will be coming from my educated and empowered page. Okay. So I am finishing out the month doing the whole educated and empowered thing. And then once we start the new year, it's just going to be the Total Woman Experience. Educated and Empowered presents the Total Woman Experience. Okay. So me and you are still going to be welcome to join. You can still be in the Facebook group. So the way what it's basically going to be is for all things that's not just for women, that's educating and empowered. And so the courses, the coaching programs. So I do all of that for both genders, okay, or whatever the politically correct term is now. But there's going to be this specific community that I'm going to have that's just for women, and that is the Total Woman Experience. But thank you all so much for tuning in, and until next time, everybody stay inspired. Oh yeah, that's it. I was going to say something else. That's it. Y'all stay inspired. Have a good